There you go. There you go.
Okay, it's 6:30. Going to call this work session
Oh
to
my
order.
goodness, what is that?
Thank you, Dawn.
Just gonna interrupt everything
Thank you. Distributing cookies?
by distributing cookies.
Okay, we're going to change the order a little bit to allow Joe Jacobs to do his presentation first, and then he can do that. It'll be 10 to 15 minutes.
Yes.
And then we'll get back to our regular business. So he's got his presentation set up.
Good evening. My name is Joe Jacob. I am an engineer by profession, and I have a small consulting firm where I do the newest technologies like artificial intelligence and IoT and all the buzzwords you see. That's what I work on these days. It's very interesting. And one of the key things that I'm here for is actually to introduce a concept of bringing the community up in terms of STEM education. Okay? So that is something near and dear to me from my childhood when I was hands-on and training myself in getting into the technology world. Okay? And I got 3 children, and my wife is actually a substitute teacher in the GCPS school system.
Oh, is she busy tomorrow?
Sorry?
She wants to know if she's busy tomorrow.
Does she have a job for tomorrow?
Oh, really? Yes. She goes to cruise, actually. She's always on call right there. So, and so my oldest is actually in Georgia Tech, just finishing his BSc Computer Science and doing his master's. And youngest is, my daughter, she's in the high school senior. And my youngest is actually in the middle school, Cruise Middle School. So during this, when I was taking them through the school days, and I realized the education that they get initially at the school is awesome. However, it lacks something on the practical side. And I come from an engineering firm. I used to work for a company called Neutron out in Pennsylvania, 15 years as engineering director. And I hired many people, right, from Georgia Tech and many other universities around the country. But one of the challenges I've seen is when people come in, they may not have all the competencies to deal with the real world engineering situation, because that's not part of their curriculum. They have the knowledge. They do have the knowledge, but not the actual practical skills. And that's what this whole concept of STEPS Practicademy came in. Okay? So it's an academy kind of, but it is practically oriented. That's where it is. So I won't bore you with many things, but basic introduction I already gave. I'll give you on what we do, and one framework I have, and E3 strategy, and how this is going to benefit the impact it creates for the community. That's one thing I'll focus on, and ask at a timeline, and I will open it for questions if you have. So I was the CTO for JSA Research, that's my consulting firm. Nobility Technologies, a startup firm in New Jersey in the energy management. I'm a CTO for them. I'm actually, even now I'm a CTO officially, but actually going through some management changes right now. And I'm also the former director for Neutron. That's a lighting controls company, as I said earlier. So what we do is very in simple one line is building practical brilliance. That's the bottom line. That's how we focus ourselves on. And with that, there is a deep framework that I have designed over the course of years. Okay? And this is based on my engineering experience and the lack of things that I see when I go for science exhibitions, science Olympiads, science fairs. I see those things, and talking to parents and teachers in the school system. So with that, the key thing that I focus on is innovation. How to bring an innovative mindset into the children. Okay? Because it's too late when they come to the engineering side in companies to work, it's already late if they don't have the mindset, right? And how do we achieve that? We provide some sort of mastery. So we want to get some skill with them and have them play with it and get that mastery in this young age, okay? And then the third thing, the pillar we have is actually alignment. How does this align to what they want to do? And what is the emerging technology that's happening, okay? So what happens is they're being taught something, but by the time they graduate from engineering colleges, the technology has changed. It's a newer technology that they have to deal with. So we actually focus on aligning them with the real world emerging technologies. That's where the AI, machine learning, IoT, everything comes into the picture. And that's what I work on today. Okay? So with that, just a brief on science. I'm sure all of you know this. Science is what actually the ability to convert information into knowledge, and that's what we do in school. We do a very good job at that. I mean, it can be improved. Of course, there are opportunities for improvement, but they do that. But converting that knowledge into something utility, that's where engineering comes in, okay? And taking that engineered product into some actual application, that's where the technology comes in. So STEPS actually stands for Science, Technology, and Engineering. That's what I focus on. And the personal skills. Because you got to be in front of somebody to talk about it, even present your idea, right? So we want to teach the kids right from that young age into these things. And this is actually knowledge. It's a very simple representation, I'm sure. And experience is what you put together with that knowledge, right? And in other words, if you look into this picture, all the dots, I borrowed this from the internet, so all those dots are nothing but dots, right? That's information. It might be some theory that you have learned, some algorithms, some calculus you learned, but then the experience comes how you connect these dots, right? And one thing that STEPS focuses on is the next piece of it. I mean, we do focus on all these things, okay? The next piece, if you look into it, creativity. So from the dots, you see the cat is formed. Yes. It's a very simple, way to look at how innovation happens. Okay? What you see as Google has done today is nothing but we all knew, but they actually connected the dots the right way to become the world's largest company, right? Same thing with Apple. So that's our philosophy. And with that, this is how we are executing it. One of the things is we call it explore. So we allow the children to explore, which means no barriers, there is no test, there's nothing. They're given certain things, play with it. It's like your Lego sets. And then once they explore what we do, we are discovering their interests, right? What they're good at. So we'll be able to guide them in the right direction. And it's student-centered. We help them to make, break, and try again, right? And the next thing we do is the experiment. In the experiment, basically what we are actually doing is we are teaching them the techniques of computational thinking, how a computer solves a problem, computational thinking. So those kind of approach is what we are bringing into the equation here. This is all hands-on. And from there, we want to take them to the evolve side, where they're going to create and innovate, do some startups and kind of thing as they progress in their age. And this whole cycle repeats, because now they can take on to a newer technology, apply the same skills they've learned, and then continue this process. This is a very simple, high-level picture of what we are trying to do. And this is coming from my engineering background, from my employment, and the challenges we've had with new hires. I've gone to campus interviews, hired people, and we have to let some people go. That's a hard thing. It's not here. Here we have all good kids, but
You might get some disagreement over there.
I'll just leave it there. But the thing is the one thing that I found is having dealt with all the children here, even locally, my friends, my kids' friends and all those things, they're very smart, but they don't have the right opportunity. Okay, they're not exposed to certain things, to learn more. And you give them something, they can make it even better than what you can even think. Because the creativity with the children is huge. Because they're not biased. They're very open. But you have to give them the thing. So the whole purpose of this is to give that actual engineering mind, what you would see in the real world. So a couple of things I just brought. We would actually give them real world engineering kits for them to play with. Now this is something that I would develop as an engineer. But this is a wireless device for communication. This could be used, put into a lighting control, and put one over here. You'll be able to control that wirelessly, for example. This is one of the kits. But we'll get to that real world. But actually what they will be playing with is these kits. These kind of kits is what they will play with. These are a little bit expensive, but we're giving them the exposure, which means I have tied up with the manufacturers of these companies who are willing to share. Because if they can see, it's like what Apple and Microsoft did. They gave the computers to the schools, and everybody learned that, and when they grew up, they bought those computers, right? Similar theory. But here, what we're teaching is not bound to a product. It is actually the technology and engineering behind it, and the way to think how to solve a problem.
Both at the same time.
So that's the bottom line. That's what we are doing, and we also have other kits that we will be, very similar, but these are all way beyond what you can see, what is out there today for the kids to play with. But these are all low voltages. I mean, they operate with the 2 batteries, 1 battery, that's it. There's no power needed for these things, all batteries. So that's the product, I mean, what we're trying to do here. And the impact, what I see, from the benefit for the community is where one thing I saw. From a city and a community perspective, like, when Snellville embraces the future, that's one of the key terminologies I thought might be a really good thing for people to see. City embraces the future, right? So we are actually ahead of everybody else, or at least at par with. That's one of the concepts. Encourages the STEM initiatives within the community. And partnerships. The partnerships are actually with larger organizations. These are Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. So we'll have those partnerships because they will actually help in terms of giving these kind of things at a reduced cost for us to buy and also train them, okay? And the economic growth, how we bring that into the equation is basically when the kids are skilled, as they grow, they get better jobs. They are well equipped. And local companies in this area could really spring up. And then we encourage from the evolve side, what we're doing is to encourage startups. So how to get this, which means we'll bring some venture capitalists into the equation. So if they want to build a company, we will make that accessible here. So I talked so Kennesaw State University has already agreed to play with me because in 2015, Google had funded a project where they wanted to test those middle school students. So Kennesaw invited me to do that, and I did it in Kennesaw State University, inviting the school students. And we also will have a local tech advisory team available right here, okay? And from a student side, we thought we will be giving some scholarships to local schools. So the students are encouraged to learn more, and we will give some financial scholarships to those students who may not be part, that's fine, I'll just put it here. They may not be part of our student curriculum, but they're regular students in the regular college, but we encourage them to do that. And from an employment, as I said earlier, more skilled STEM workers in this community, which means even for companies to come in, because there are other attractive things within the Snellville area, that might be somebody here who has gone to Georgia Tech and got their engineering degree, they want to start something. Make that available here. But if they want to hire people, they can get students right from here. So that is one of the key things. And we'll have some seminars and workshops to give some publicity for the city. And for the students of this project, for the steps, they will be working with real world things. In fact, real projects, which means we will take, as my consulting, I'll take projects. The children would actually be building those real projects, and they will go through what an engineer goes through a company like Lutron, for example, or an IBM. So, for example, they will have things like engineering notebook. Now, this is something that as engineers, anybody engineers in the room? But typically, not many companies do that. I come from an old-fashioned company, the Lutron. Our chairman invented dimmers. So if you go to Smithsonian Museum next to Edison's bulb, you'll see Mr. Spira's dimmers, okay? So he's a very old-fashioned. But he makes sure that everybody writes down their engineering, what they've done. It's all blank right now. It's a brand new one. And they sign on it, which means when you apply for a patent, this is your Bible. That will hold your intellectual property within you. So I want to teach that also. Give them that basic things that are expected of you when you go to a real job. So that's the key out there. And as I said earlier, we will encourage more startups in this region. Just with this, because once you encourage these students to really work hard and to understand these things, then nothing is impossible. The problem is to get them to that first stage. Okay, so that's where we are. And the next slide is basically just the ask. This is the last slide I have. Just the ask is basically to use the classrooms, which I actually came across this from a micro manufacturing perspective, which was an article in one of the Snellville in the Spirit. And that's how I, reached out to Eric, and thank you, Eric, for arranging this. And so thought of using the classrooms to do that because it's hands-on. And as part of this, we also have real tools to, like for AI, I'll be working with the Googles and the AI, the Microsofts, so we'll be going to their sites and then doing classes there also. So they are actually really engaged. They will go for larger conferences, like I was in CES in Vegas just 2 weeks back. They would be joining as a team, selected ones, to come and really see what innovation is all about in the core. And we just focus on the STEM side. And then we also, because a lot of equipment is there, bringing it out, and to do some preparation and research before the classes to get one of the rooms that we can actually pay some rent and take that. And that'll be, those are the two asks that I have, the simple ask, okay? And then the timeline, as early as possible, trying to see if we can do a soft launch. And this will be like a 10-month program, along with the line of their school system. So it is like an after school in a way, but it's more targeted towards preparing them to understand the challenges they would face in a real world employment tomorrow, and also to help them make a career choice. Like my daughter, she's in the high school senior, it took some time for her to understand what she wants to really do. Very honestly, but my youngest one knows, my oldest also knows. He knew exactly what he wanted. My daughter, she's an artist. She's away from my technology side, she's an artist. But she finally decided to go to dentistry, to be another doctor. So, yeah. So that's where that is. So at least she's got something. So we took some training in the process. I want to help the students to align their career and go from there and grow Snellville even more than what everybody is, contributing today, to contribute more. So that's where I am. So with that, if you have any questions.
What age group students are
Yeah,
you
very,
targeting?
very good. So it's actually middle school. So we're
Okay.
trying to do from the 6th grade onwards is where the explore thing comes. Because they don't know anything. We are actually going to put them into, like a lot of toys in front of them and to make them learn the basics. So the 6th grade onwards. But some students, even in 6th grade, they're very smart. So we have a proprietary tiered approach, which means once we evaluate, we will say, you may want to jump into the next thing, and we'll take them ahead while others catch up, okay?
Will you be depending on the parents to get them here
Yes.
in the afternoon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The parents have to bring them, that is if the parental partnership is not there, participation is
Right,
not there,
right.
this ain't going to work.
Right.
What's
I
your
can-
student-teacher ratio?
Actually, 10:1.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's nice.
That's what we are planning, 10:1. So that could be, in some cases, the kit's a little bit expensive, so we might have 2 people on 1 kit kind of thing. And but I would like to get everybody their own kit and play with it, because even if it breaks, I can get another one. So I don't want to hold them back from that, because the fear is, am I going to break it? It's going to cost me $100. No, feel to break it. So 10:1 is what we're planning.
How do you go through a selection process for children?
Yeah, so we're going to make it through, because we want to get them for the future, right? For an engineering, for a college application, this will be a very similar process. They will make a, of intent, their intent, a statement, a purpose statement will be there. They will actually write down and they will apply, and then we'll select it from there. So we actually encourage, first we thought we'd go only with their grades. But there could be somebody who may not be very good in the grades, but very smart elsewhere, right? You look at all these Steve Jobs and Microsoft, Bill Gates, we all know exactly where they were strong at. So we're keeping it open, to answer your question. But it all depends on, if they have the right interest, and we have only certain slots, that we have, so they have to apply early and get into the system. Once they're in the system, it's like GSMST. You get in the 9th grade, you're there through the 12th grade. So you can actually mature into the evolve process and go from there. And from high school, they can enter in. High school also, they can come in. And then one other thing that down the road, which is actually in the economic thing that I wrote down, is basically to get, job-focused training for adults. Because there are a lot of people, unfortunately, because the skill gap is there, the technology has changed, and we would like to contribute into that. Okay. Another thing we thought about is actually for the STEM workshops for teachers in the school system around here, free. That we will expose them to the real world things, what's happening out there, so that they can teach or transform that to their students.
Right.
So that's part of the equation too.
Will you be, this will be open to all middle school students in this area?
Exactly.
Snellville area?
Yes, Snellville, yeah, the Brookwood cluster.
Just Brookwood cluster?
Yeah, Brookwood cluster and the
South Gwinnett.
South Gwinnett
Gwinnett
and
cluster
the Grayson.
and the
So
Grayson.
something in the neighborhood, yeah.
Okay.
Shiloh, maybe too.
Yeah, Shiloh maybe, yeah, exactly, yeah. We'll
Okay.
keep it open that way around.
What's the cost?
Yeah, I was just.
For
Yeah.
taking my
The
face.
parents
So
or
the-
the students
so-
or the?
Yeah, the cost thing actually, it actually varies on what program they want to get into. So on a monthly basis, I think the minimum would be around $175. 175, 200 is what we kept right now, but we can actually work on it. And then it can go up to 500 or 600 depending on what external things they're doing. Because if I have to take them to Microsoft, they take them to CES, things like that cost travel, a lot of things are there.
Will you take me to CES?
Oh, yeah. It's worth a shot, but you gotta be willing to walk.
I've been known to walk on the city bus. We'll have Butch drive us.
The senior center bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a,
Nothing more
So-
satisfying below seniors.
thank you.
So how much, your ask is just for space?
Just for space,
How,
actually.
how much space do you need? How often do you need it?
So from a room perspective, that is something that I would like to lock and key because all the equipment in there, right? From a classroom perspective, it was actually the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, and weekdays afternoons.
Right.
Afternoons, evenings, yeah.
So every weekday and,
Yeah, every weekday is the plan, but I may not get, this is slowly starting, right? So we might be using only once in a week, but till it gets the thing. But if there are children that they are really interested in doing it, I don't want to hold them back. Just want to get them in. The more we can actually have smart children around, less of the problems that we'll have.
the smart, yeah. I would say the smart children aren't the problem, but that's not true.
Well, the thing is to give them the opportunity to become smart. I mean, I tell you, every child has got a potential. Every child. That's my belief. Every child has got a potential. It's just to guide them in the right direction, that's all it is. Yeah.
Well,
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
You want this to be left off? Send it off.
While he's wrapping that up, I've been communicating with mayor and council about Jamal Wilson's visit tomorrow. He is the operator owner of the hall on Franklin. And Melissa and I had a conversation and she reminded me that if we do a meet and greet, which we're trying to accomplish for tomorrow afternoon, only 3 of you can be at the room at the same time. I have not been able to communicate times yet, but Melissa and I talked about tentatively maybe a half an hour a piece, something like that. So if I can get one at 3:30, one at 4, then we divide you into 2 groups. of
I've met
3.
him, so I don't know that he
You've
wants
met
to
him,
meet
so.
me anymore.
But Barbara wants to come, and I don't know how many of the rest of you. So if we end up with more than 3 at one time, we can do that. We just need you to kind of self-sort. Solange is coming to visit me at 4 o'clock tomorrow, so she has a reserve slot at 4 o'clock. But the rest of you have to kind of figure out and sort out. So if you're coming in,
I'll take a 4
Solange,
with her.
then, and what you'll have to understand is you may be meeting with me at 4 until he's available, or we may be holding him over. I just
So we
don't know
can do
his time.
3 people at 4.
Can do 3 people in one slot, hopefully it'll be 4 o'clock, I don't know.
Okay, well,
for sure.
I'll come at 4 then, if that,
Okay, then that leaves the rest of you to come sometime other than 4, like 4:30 or 3:30, depending upon when he's available. I do know his window is from 1 to 5, that he'll be around, so I'm trying to figure out what he's doing in that time. I do know sometime shortly after 1 o'clock, he's going to want to walk around the town center block and just look at it.
can I come to the, is 3:30 the earliest?
I don't, well, the 2 answers to that right now are that's the earliest we're thinking, but I really don't know times yet. I'm gonna have to have some conversations tonight and tomorrow morning, and then I'll send you actual time.
Okay, because I would really prefer to come earlier than 4 if that's
Okay,
possible.
I'll just keep earlier in mind, because
Yeah.
I don't have his kind of plan yet. I'm not the one doing his plan for his time tomorrow. I'm the one invading and asking all the questions about what he's doing and when. So I'll let you know, but around 1 o'clock-ish, he's gonna do the walk. I think Todd might join us for that, and Barbara has said she will not be able to join us for that. Dave, you said you might join
Might be
us for
able
that as well. So if you wanted to walk, there's one more opportunity. Otherwise, I'll hope that we can arrange sometime. And he does know that you want to meet him late afternoon.
He's
so-
gonna walk the Grove
Yeah.
property, is that the idea?
Yeah. And his business is the Hall on Franklin.
Right.
And he's the operator and owner of that venue. And Todd's got cookies for you from
Yep,
there.
and along those lines.
Oh, that's where these
The
came from.
cookies that I handed out were,
I think I'll just take it. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you. Were two of the selections, he has it's not a food hall, it's not a restaurant, it's a combination of the two. He has.
The rest of the hall.
He's got.
Collective eatery is what he calls it.
Yeah, there you go. He's got
Trying to figure out
6
what's
chefs in this location, and they all have a specialty. One of them is desserts, and so we were given the cookies, which is is that Fruity Pebbles cookie and a chocolate chip cookie?
Fruity Pebbles.
I don't think the chocolate chip cookie needs any explanation. They were excellent. When I got them, I put them in the freezer as soon as I could, so they'd be fresh for y'all.
Good, thank
And,
you.
I'll just tell you 5 seconds in the microwave for the chocolate ones, like so.
And I'll just tell you that you'd have a lot more of those if Eric hadn't been on the trip.
Oh,
Everybody in the, no, I won't. But it's just a little taste. It was a very interesting place, and I'm sure he'll explain it much better than I will tomorrow, or
Okay.
today.
Any correspondence, madam? Does the attorney have anything to?
We had one report on the Grove trademark. Chuck has it.
So Butch had asked me to look into the issue of trademarking the Grove. So I got with Brian Bachhoff, who is our intellectual property attorney here in Snellville that we work with. And he did a trademark search, and as it turns out, the Grove is a very popular name for all
Miss.
sorts of endeavors. As such, he makes it as highly unlikely we would be able to receive a patent, or excuse me, a trademark from the United States. However, he thinks that we would be able to file for what is known as a state trademark, which would only obviously be enforceable in the state of Georgia, but would serve our purposes of protecting anyone from trying to use the name, the Grove, for other purposes than what we want them to. However, what he has suggested, or first of all, we can't do it because at this stage, the name The Grove, and he would prefer us to use The Grove at Town Center, or even better than that, The Grove at Snellville Town Center, because that's much more specific and we have a much better chance of being able to maintain that trademark. But as such, it has not yet been used in the stream of commerce, and that's kind of the catchphrase, the stream of commerce. What he's looking for is that, when we are soliciting, and I explained to him we have a developer that we're working with, but that when we're starting to look for merchants, when we're looking for, start advertising for any of the things that we're building, that we start using that, the Grove at Snellville Town Center and everything we do, so we can go ahead and start establishing that. So it's very important that we not just call it the Grove, but that it be the Grove at Snellville Town Center, or the Grove at Town Center, whichever we're going to use, but that we start using that full term as often as we can.
And Chuck, just to comment on that, we would want to use the Grove at Town Center, Snellville. That's the way it.
Okay.
the
and that's-
Grove at Town Center,
The Grove
Snellville.
at Town Center, Snellville.
Is there a comment in that?
I don't know that it's been that well clearly defined. I just know that I can look at the paperwork and see.
We will need to get that. That gets important.
Brian, do you remember how specific they got on that? Did they put a comma or something in
I
there?
remember there was no Snellville mentioned at all, but
Well, the Snellville was the bottom line, but they were using it.
on the actual logo?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll get you a detail.
Okay. We have an updated ordinance. Has this been passed out? RZ 20-16, 19-16. Anybody need a copy?
I have it.
Okay.
Chickens and bees, right?
We're gonna get to that, but there's other, you wanna go over any of this, Chuck, Tony? Some of the changes?
That is on the zoning.
Yeah, because we got an updated one this afternoon.
The only update to that really is, there was a change in the nomenclature and the title of one of the sections. We added I believe a Roman numeral 5 into it, so that was the main change that we made from what was in there before.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on
So
Roman numeral 5?
is, I don't have a document in front of me, so,
It's the same thing.
okay, so it's,
Same thing.
Wait, I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about the,
No,
yeah, it's chickens
RZ.
and bees.
That's
Well, that's
chickens
the-
and
yeah, we're
bees.
chickens and bees. We're talking about,
Okay, so
one of
this
the-
is something
talking
that
about the
was
town
in our,
center zoning.
okay.
Yeah, something in
That's
the
an
packet that
RZ.
was a late
Yeah.
modification.
I emailed that this morning, the updated ordinance.
Okay.
just a
no,
5.
I-
It's a clerical error.
If you would, when those updates go out, could you text me that they have gone out? Because often I don't check my email. But if you send me a text, I'll know to pull that. Because otherwise, I'm sitting here without the document. And it's something that we're evidently gonna take action on tonight, and I really don't appreciate that. Or Chuck, Tony, since y'all are the ones who
It's
update
Roman
those
numeral,
documents.
Todd, jeez.
Yeah, hey,
Roman numeral.
I just want to make sure that we're all up to speed, that's all.
Okay? Chickens and bees. You're
Want me
up,
to talk about the chickens
You're up.
and bees?
chicken man.
All right. Well, let's talk about bees, because I think that is easier. I think, Gretchen, that was
Be
one of
easier.
your concerns, is that correct?
Well,
Bees?
my concern was, I was reading through the draft of the UDO, and it didn't seem to mesh with the conversation that we had with Caleb when he came and, asked us what we wanted to do about this, and I just felt like maybe we needed to be updated or
Sure.
have a discussion or whatever.
So there's actually no mention, I don't believe there's any mention of bees in the UDO, in our draft UDO. But what I did locate was a couple things. There is actually a code section that with the state code that limits restrictions that can be placed by municipalities on honeybee production or maintenance. In fact, it says that you can't adopt or continue in effect any ordinance, rule, or regulation that prohibits, impedes, or restricts the establishment or maintenance of honeybees in hives. However, it says it does not restrict the zoning authority of the county or municipal governments, which makes it very confusing statute to say the least. Our interpretation is that I think we can do some zoning as far as distances and where on property it can be located, but you can't do anything that directly
That
prohibits somebody
prohibits
from
it.
having them. So
Well,
that's kind of
they're important to the,
that's kind of the overview of the law. I think
Pollination.
it's kind of your all's
For the
call on
environment.
how you all want to proceed, but it is a very confusing area the way the legislature has written the law at this point.
Both you gentlemen were not lucky enough to be at our retreat this year. It was a lot of fun, but there was, I believe, and correct me, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm wrong, there was no desire to move forward with this.
That's chickens.
No, I understand.
Okay.
There was no desire, there was consensus that there was no desire to move forward with any of this in the
As-
UDO.
As written, right.
No, I thought that we were striking it.
Meaning you don't want to regulate it at all at the local?
No, we don't want to allow it
Okay,
at the local level.
okay.
And I believe right now the prohibition is if you're 5 acres or up, you have that ability. Is that right, Jesse?
No,
3?
the bees are.
No, not bees.
Not bees.
Bees is a state preemption as far as I'm concerned.
So we're talking about chickens
Just
now?
chickens.
I'm confused.
Just chickens.
Yeah, it's prohibited right now.
Okay, and so I'd just like to have that go forward.
Anything less than 5 acres now?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought, it was
The-
5 acres.
The famous case in this area is the Lilburn's pot-bellied pig. And so it's a constitutionally protected area of pets. So there is a subculture of people that just run into it in Gwinnett County and other cities, where it becomes a point of significant supported attack in prohibitions. So there's law that's probably going to make that hard to enforce ultimately. They are proposed as pets, not as farm animals, and so it becomes probably not likely that we could completely defend an absolute prohibition, but
But we currently have one.
right.
On less than,
Right, less than
Less than
3 acres.
or 5?
5? Is it 3 or 5?
Well, one of those.
Right. And that's good. I mean, I'm good. I just wanted to say that staying status quo is certainly something that we can do.
If someone wants to keep chickens in their house inside, that's fine, because that's where pets are kept,
Yep.
right?
So is that it? No more chickens? You should add this, that's the policy director?
That is what was brought up at the
Retreat.
retreat. So would prefer to keep the,
So how do we best do that? By just removing any mention out of the UDO?
well.
You just carry your current statute forward into the UDO. Yeah, you just carry it forward like it is and not change it. And I think that's probably your most defensible
Well,
position.
or you make it a special use permit that has to come before the, I mean, you give people an option. But I know there are chickens in the city of Snellville, but I also know that where I have properties elsewhere in Gwinnett County, that it is a detriment to building a community where people want to live, to have random livestock wandering around.
Yeah.
And I've personally had situations where folks say, no, I'm not renting here, there's dang chickens running around. And in a residential urban area, that's,
Okay. So you just need to give us direction on the most defensible way to do it? Okay. All right, and we need an executive session?
We do need an executive session, yes, sir. In areas of potential litigation.